What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special video edition of Screamer for Change with no music and just Michael.
What everyone's looking for.
This is, yeah, this is exactly. I was like, because I'm doing this radio show and it's very professional and I'm really trying hard to like get followers and hopefully make a career out of this, that I'm just gonna give the people what they want, which is my friend who doesn't agree with me about music ever. That's not
90% of the
totally
time.
true. Um,
90%.
you know what I listen to of my own on my own volition? Is that how you say that?
I think so.
I listen to Razzle Dazzle uh
Oh,
like maybe 2 days ago.
and you loved
Um
it.
it was like, what was it? Just the sauce or saucers, just only saucers? Is that what it's
Yeah.
called?
Blues Only Saucers, yes. They have a song about just like straight about food on it. The first word I think is
Um
pizza. It's like pizza.
Yeah.
It's
It was
great.
fun. So two of the episodes that are coming up, you heard one of them, but not the other one.
Mhm.
Um, I've been kind of in a place mood-wise that hasn't been great, and I made just the most like brutally depressing, serious, sad, hardcore mix, and it like came
Ooh.
chronologically right after the Mental and the Likes episode. Um, so it was, a whirlwind of like uh really happy, exciting, fun hardcore and just depressing uh the world is over type vibes. So this is about neither of those things. So for the like three of our friends who know both of us who are gonna watch this for like a minute
Mhm.
and then be like, this is stupid. I made
Yep.
Michael listen to a bunch of Oi and a bunch of Oi influenced hardcore. Michael, not never heard you describe yourself as like an avowed nationalist or anything of the sort, but the vibes kind of are adjacent. You're very like, America first hard.
When it comes to the punk and the UK sound, America first indeed. Everything else American can be last, but I mean when it comes to the American Revolution, they can keep their punk. I'll stick with what we came up with over here.
Yeah. So the influences, if you're watching this, if you haven't listened to the episode, you should probably listen to the episode first because we're just
Yes.
talking about the selections that I made and subjected Michael to listen to. And can I see your notebook? You have like an actual notebook that you're
Yes, a little guy. I just ripped a page accidentally, and then I think it's 4 pages total, and just like
un
some scribbles.
unbelievable.
It got there was like less detail as I got going along, but yeah, no, I kept some real notes. And also, the one thing that I can say I appreciate, even though I don't like any of the songs really, well, I mean, varying don't like them, is that at least they were all quick. But on the
Mm.
downside is that like didn't realize how many songs I'd be taking notes on. It was what 22 songs.
Yeah, it was a lot. I also don't think I talked a lot in the episode. That's always like
Yeah.
if I want to play a lot of music, I just kind of uh also I was in a really bad I was talking about that like angry episode I did. I was in a bad mood, so I literally didn't talk at all. I made like a depressing statement at the beginning and then only halfway through just back spoke all of the first half of the songs and at the end just said what the last songs were and that was the entire episode.
Gonna make for some great radio. Someone's gonna be like driving in their car listening and be like, this guy, he might need some help. He
Yeah,
seemed
for
really
sure.
sad.
So, getting into what I made you listen to, I also have our text messages because you were kind of live
Boy,
texting me about it. I won't get into that too much, but I
that's
know
fair.
that one, Restraining Order is a local Western Mass hardcore band that I love, that I've seen a handful of times at this point. I buy their records. I'm a big fan. You know that they're a huge hardcore band, and you had never listened to them before. Is that accurate?
I've only heard like a couple songs. Like basically, if I see a news story that says, Restraining Orders drops album and a single corresponding, I'll usually listen to the single.
Okay.
And I don't think I know anyone. I don't think I know anyone besides Keith in the band. I don't know Keith well, but I mean, Keith used to come to shows when I lived in Western Mass, and he was always the nicest dude. But I
Hmm.
don't know if I know anyone else in the band, like even tangentially. But
Yeah, everybody has
yeah,
good things to
Keith's
say
cool.
about that guy.
Hmm.
So you listened to this entire song before you knew it was Restraining Order because after I played it, I was
Yes,
like, "This is the new single from Restraining Order." All right, what are
correct. I had
your?
no clue who it was.
You got some hot takes. What did you think about
Uh,
the new
the
Restraining Order single?
the notes I wrote were I like the bass going for a walk during the chorus.
It is awesome.
But the verses feel unexciting to me. By the second time, the first time I was fine with it, but the second time it felt too repetitive. And then I wrote "Whoa" solo,
It was a
and then
great
I ended it,
solo.
and I ended it with "Not bad." So actually, for it, I can go through. By the end, we'll know, but I would say that was probably like a top one or two tracks of the whole thing,
Yeah,
of like
it's
all the stuff. Because I mean, I guess it's maybe Oi influence, like you said, but not Oi itself. So.
it's probably one of the most like hardcore, maybe except like Slapshot that I played later. That's like this is a hardcore band, you know. Um, I like I said, I love Restraining Order. I legitimately I keep listening to this. There's only one song. I think it's my favorite Restraining Order song ever. So I'm like really hyped
Okay.
about the new record. And I realized recently in the last few years that one of like the things, because I'm not like a musician, but one of the things that makes me like a hardcore band is if the bass is cool. And I think that was
Hmm.
just happening subconsciously forever. And now that I've
Sure.
like realized it, I'm like, oh, of course, 7 Seconds is my favorite band ever. The bass lines are like sick and interesting and not just like we got our friend. I mean, like you and I have done in the past, we tried to start a pop punk band where I was playing bass and singing but I've never played bass. And that's probably that's like one of the normal ways that you start a band, right? You just like the guy who
Yes,
doesn't know how to play an instrument plays bass and then that's how it goes. We're offending bass
that is.
players everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, but it does maybe it highlights how important like a good bass player is
Yeah,
compared to just like, someone who's just picking it up. I also feel similarly about drummers, which I will get into later as well, that I think that's a big thing that I don't like Oi for because, drums is important for me.
fair. We can if you want to jump around or if you want to go chronologically, you can skip around too. We don't necessarily have to talk about every single band. Maybe it might make sense to talk about Grem after Restraining Order because Grem is also Keith from Restraining Order's band.
Which one was that?
The third song,
Okay,
Ruthless Violence.
I wrote, do all bands need to count in? Because it seems like a very Oi thing that they're all like, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's more of a Dracula impression than a UK impression. But and then I said, I don't like this tempo, and it never changes in all Oi bands. And that was only by the third track, and
Oh,
I felt the same by the end. Is that like Oi bands for the most part, like they could have you could start an Oi band drum wise with just a hi-hat, a ride, a snare, a kick, and maybe a floor tom, but it's just the same tempo and the same drum thing. There's very little like um they don't do halftime very much or speed it up. It's always the same. And so by track like I don't know 15, I was getting like very upset by it. So
do you feel that same way about Power Violence?
some, yeah. I mean, like there's only a few power violence bands I like for the most part, but yeah, it's like they'll give you 6 seconds of something that's blasting and might go into the next song. But if like a band utilizes something super fast, ridiculous, and then gives you a tempo change of almost like a two-step part and then back into fast, I'm like, okay, they changed it up a little bit for me. But yeah, I mean, it's not like I listen to a ton of power violence, so.
Yeah. Okay, so in between that was Violent Way. I don't know. We can do like quick hits on ones, and then if you have more to say, you can. I think one person who I talked to who listened to this and they heard the Violent Way song. This is like an outlier song for this band. It
Yep.
doesn't really sound like anything else that they do. It's basically like a noi emo song.
I wrote, is this faster collective soul? And then wrote, and yet way too slow for me to care about. There's no variations. I don't hate it, but it does nothing for me. Yeah, it had like a faster 90s feel, but yet too slow at the same time. Like it was not fast hardcore enough for me. So
Okay.
give me the slow collective soul.
All right, then we go. The
What was
Trouble.
four?
Do not say anything bad about The Trouble. I will.
Was the four the trouble?
Yeah.
I wrote has a Dillinger Four feel at times, but it's not as dynamic or interesting.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. Are we
Um,
sure that was four?
unless I changed the order. I don't think I did though. Do you have the Dropkick Murphys song after that?
I wrote, yeah, I must be because I wrote, I only want bagpipes with my corn songs. I don't drink, and drinking songs do nothing for me. Chant along and have fun, but not for me.
Okay. And the Bruisers
Yep.
were after that, which is also common singer at different times.
Oh,
Um,
really? That's
yeah.
when I wrote, Oi dudes often sound like they want to have that smoker's voice, but often just sounds like they can't yell or naturally sound tough and gruff. My message is smoke more, I guess. I don't know. Give me a little bit more of a smoker's voice, I guess, if that's what the vibe is. So,
Oh, okay. Then we move back to hardcore. I can't imagine that you're not very familiar with Warzone, but I have no idea what you think about Warzone. So,
to be honest, a lot, even though I like, I know the Trouble and I know the Warzone, none of them I really listen much to. So,
mhm.
like, if I'm gonna listen to a band that Gibby was in, I go for Panic, not the Trouble. But I wrote, I like the Gan vocals in the middle, but don't care about the rest. I'm realizing Oi has almost no palm muting. Get out of here with only open strumming. That's another thing I noticed is that there's
Mm,
not much palm muting. It's a lot of just like na 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 na.
okay.
And that's something I need a little variation guitar wise, I guess, too.
The next two tracks are like, John, these are just hardcore bands from England. Why did you put them in the Oi episode? But
Who's next?
it was Violent Reaction into Arms Race.
Okay, the that was a faster tempo and more musical dynamic, so I seem to like that one. Vocals are not so much for me, but I also love a mid-tempo song change. And then I said, and are those guest vocals? I don't know what that means. There may have been guest
Um,
vocals in there.
there might have been. I mean, I feel like Violent Reaction toured the US a bunch with like the bands of that era.
Okay.
And also I'm surprised that this isn't a band that you already like. Like I feel like
Yeah,
this is a band
actually,
that like a lot of people really like from like 10 years ago or a little longer than that.
that is interesting. I am surprised at least I don't know more about them.
Hmm.
Whatever was next, I hated. I wrote woof,
Arms Race?
awful vocals, learn to yell or scream, and smoke less, maybe. So now I'm changing my advice. Earlier I said smoke more. This time I said smoke less.
I mean, this is the one that was like one of the most gruff vocal stylings. I feel like that dude could like sing in a death metal band. Okay, funny. All right, then we went to everybody's favorites. You had the Chisel followed by Chubby and the Gang.
Oh, you're not gonna like what I said about Chubby and the Gang, I think. I wrote for um the chisel, I wrote faster and guitar part in the middle isn't bad. So I guess I was happy that like it wasn't just kind of a mid-ish tempo speed. And then Chubby and the Gang, I wrote can't sing or yell. I was upset by it. That's all I wrote. Can't sing or yell again.
See, I feel like Chubby and the Gang is like scratches the epitaph like itch for me.
Not a, yeah, that's not a vibe that I get down with.
Okay.
So,
Oh God, there's some coming up that I'm so curious. Chain Whip, you've heard because I've played them a million times. Did you have anything about Chain Whip? That was the
uh,
next track.
I wrote, dude's vocals are wild. I bet there's a lot of spit flying out of his mouth fast and quick, which
Hmm.
I guess not fully negative.
This is the one I'm very curious. So Homefront is a band. O'Coin, I think, has seen this band like a half dozen times at this point. Probably not that many, but like as many times as they've played New York. And I feel like everybody in the hardcore internet is obsessed with this band.
Mhm.
And I think they sound like Tears for Fears, and I like Tears for Fears, but it's funny that it's like, what did you think about
This is
Homefront?
this is one of the ones I remember actively texting, like live texting about, because I wrote, "Is this the Cure?" And then I wrote, I wish the instruments changed more, especially tempo, but it's cool how they use the vocals for a different sound in the chorus. So I also
Mm.
kind of liked it. It was not like again, I need more of a tempo change here and there put throughout, but like it was kind of a cool, weird vibe to it.
Nation is like the big hit. Like that's the one that is kind of an outlier sonically.
Okay.
Like you're like this could probably be on like the radio, you know. The
Yes.
rest of it isn't as easily palatable as that one. Then we go to some Froy, dog. How you down with the Froy?
I wrote I wrote it's the Cure again. And then I wrote I don't mind it, but still no tempo changes. I like what the guitars and bass do, and that's all I wrote. So it
Okay.
did feel like both those things had a like a little bit of a different, not such a punk vibe to it, which I can get down with.
Sure. Yeah, it was those definitely were a little different. Syndrome 81 also does a youth crew band that has like a
Ooh,
4 song 7 inch.
okay.
I cannot remember for the life of me what the band is called, but I think Andy Skelly told me that the songs, because they're in French and they just sound youth crewy, like you'd be singing along, but he said they were about like cheese or something. Like it was like the songs
Oh
were about
hell yes.
nonsense.
I love that.
I know you love cheese. All right. The whole rest of this episode, okay, we're making good time. I didn't want this to be like a million hours long. The rest of the episode was like, to my limited mind around Oi, I tried to be like, these are the biggest Oi bands from like the origin of the genre. So
Interesting.
up to that point, it was a lot of bands that were like, these are bands that were influenced by these Oi bands from the late 70s, early 80s. Now we're
Yep.
at the Oi bands from the late 70s, early 80s. So you had the Four Skins was the first one.
I wrote, I think the singer is the guy who sang the Monster Mash. And then I wrote, at least there's palm muting, but it's just the same tempo on drums still. I don't remember. I would love to go back
I
and
was
listen to it, but
working in the lab late
it
one
has a
night.
very that feel to it. He's just kind of weirdly talking, so I don't remember anything else besides that. But I did like that those palm muting on the
Okay,
guitar.
it scratched that itch for you. The next one
Yep.
was Blitz, which is actually a band that I like have owned a CD of theirs for a very long time. So this is
Hmm.
if you were like what like early Oi bands was I into? I don't think I owned of these like classic bands. Blitz I think is the only one that I actually owned a CD of. And I liked
Interesting.
them. So that was Criminal Damage by Blitz. You have any notes on that?
I just wrote has that has the I've been drinking punk vibe, which is not for me. Like very it's not sea shanties and it's not Irish stuff, but it's in that realm of, like we've all been drinking, let's sing along together, which just does nothing for me. It's not a even though I'm recently getting into soccer, it's like soccer, Irish stuff, sea shanties, that none of that is for me for like the culture that goes with it.
Okay.
It's
All
got that
right.
vibe.
You're you're a straight edge hardline drummer. All that's what I keep hearing
An
in this.
American straight edge
Yeah.
hardline drummer.
I put this next one in just because of the title of the song, just for you. It was Red, White, and Blue, which is
Ugh,
I don't know if you know this, but that's actually the colors of the Union Jack as well. Their flag, not they're not talking about the stars and the stripes here. So if you
no.
were feeling
And
real patriotic, I tricked you.
well, I actually wrote, I just don't like it. That's all I wrote. It's simple on that one. So you know, still loving the red, white, and blue. Give me the stars and stripes on that one, I guess.
Okay, moving on. We've got The Business with Mortgage Mentality.
I wrote, what is this hi-hat? So
Okay,
apparently I did not like the sound of the
so
hi-hat.
some recording problems for you on that one. Uh,
Yeah, sonically.
the next one, this is probably the band on the playlist that's actually an Oi band that I've listened to the most, like that Shock Troops LP. Like relatively recently, I got into Coxbar, and I've listened to this LP like in like full front to back, dozens and dozens of times in the last couple years. So I am a huge
Yeah.
fan of this whole thing. Um, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I wrote the thing I started with is same goddamn tempo. I'm still so sick of just like that style, that exact beats per minute tempo, whatever.
Stuck
But
in my
I did
head right
write,
now.
I wrote, but I can appreciate the vocals being different, and it's almost got a weird 70s rock style to it.
Hmm.
Which the one thing that I've noticed is that like the songs that I have something positive to say, for the most part, the ones that you are taking time to like speak on more, which is
Hmm.
interesting because it is something that's like maybe there is something cool on all those tracks that you're like, you've listened to it more, or they're like taking the internet like by storm, like Homefront or Cox Bar or things like that. So
Yeah.
there is a different feel to them.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. The Cockney Rejects.
I wrote I'm bored.
Yeah, that's fair. Angelic Upstarts.
Totally can enjoy a politically motivated punk or hardcore song, but this feels more like a boring history lesson and not more than a political message.
It's
I
also
felt like,
hard to listen to like I don't know. It's like when you're listening to hardcore songs about Reagan, it's like that was dope in like 84, but it's like it's
yeah,
kind of it's not hitting the same as it does in 2025.
that's true.
Uh had you heard the 7 Seconds version of The Kids Are United before you heard this last track?
I don't think so.
Okay. I probably
Yeah,
spent
and
the
I
like a
was gonna
decade
say unless
thinking
you've
this
played
was
it,
yeah.
unless you've played it for me. So
Did did this one get stuck in your head?
no, not a
Did
single,
did you hate
not a
this
single
one?
track there. This is the last one too, right?
Yeah,
This
this is
is
the last
track 22.
one.
I wrote the British Cheap Trick question mark. And then I wrote, also, I've gotten more. Well, I didn't realize I wrote this. I said, also, I've gotten more into soccer lately, or football, as some say, so I can enjoy the gang vocals, but still has that drinking pub feel that just doesn't really do it for me. So I didn't realize I wrote something about soccer here as well.
Hmm.
So yeah,
I
it's.
okay. Did you have any final thoughts? I have a couple other like sidebar questions here for you, but do you have any like you spent an hour listening to a playlist that I made of music that you don't like,
Yeah.
so that we could make this silly video. Do you have any like how did this change your life?
It reinforced my pro-American stance. Yeah, it's just like I get why people would like this. Like, I understand the idea of everyone grouping around having gang vocals that are like sing-songy and, have I don't think, and it doesn't have to always revolve around drinking, but has that like, I've been drinking, having a good time, let's get together, sing along kind of feel. I understand why people like it, but I don't ever see any Oi or Oi like bands being for me because a lot of them have that kind of style to me. British
Is
vocals aside, I also don't understand that the thing I don't understand is why people would mimic a British vocal style, which I feel like some do, and they're not British.
it's
That I
true.
don't get.
In that Graham band, he says, what's the name of the song? At the end of the song, he says, "She'll bite you right in the bollocks."
It's
It's like,
ridiculous to me. I love it for a hilarious aspect, but it's definitely very confusing to me. I can't imagine sitting down and being like, I'm gonna write these vocals being from America.
so do you is based on what you're saying, is Oi like a alternate like bizarro youth crew straight edge thing? Like, but it's just it's like the gang vocals are based around drinking and also not palm muting.
And probably, yeah, that actually is not a terrible comparison. It's like not so fast. Like youth crew is usually always like at a faster tempo.
Hmm.
Um, but also, yeah, I mean, both of them love a gang vocal. Youth crew is usually a little bit more yelling, a little less sing-songy. But yeah, I mean, it's probably true. It's like youth crew has the straight edge gang vocals, and Oi has more of a pub vibe to it.
Do you think if you break edge and start drinking, since you're since you're getting into soccer, and we're getting older,
Yep.
it's time to grow up and start drinking beer and graduating to listening to Oi. Is there a world where that happens, Michael?
No. But if I was to graduate into a sound, I mean, give me, I guess, the home front based on my notes, the home front and even Coxbar, I did not get that much into. So yeah, give me the home front and their weirdness.
I think the Homefront record. and the Coxbar record would be a good thing for you to listen through when you have a minute and see if you still feel that way. The
Hmm.
Coxbar song isn't an outlier. There is an outlier track on that that's kind of softer, singier, that's
Okay.
awesome. But
Yeah.
most of that record kind of sounds the same. The Homefront stuff, I don't know. It's in the same realm, but that's definitely the standout. So I feel like if you're going into it thinking like, "Oh man, the whole thing's gonna be like this," you're gonna be like, "Oh, that was the best one, huh?"
Disappointed.
Uh,
That
that's
will be a little
tough.
disappointing. And there's been like a couple Chisel songs I've heard that I'm like, oh, it's like, it's faster, it's a little more aggressive that have been like, okay, I can get down with this, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't know
I'm
Western Mass was turning into such a UK influenced place though. Two bands from Western Mass featured on here.
Yeah, it seems like I think it's two bands, but just one person who's bringing that to the table.
And that
Much
feel.
much respect. I guess my surprises out of you, I really thought that you would be stoked about Violent Reaction more than you were,
Okay.
and I also thought, what was the other one? Warzone. I feel like you need to give Warzone more of a chance.
I probably should. I mean, it's a derivative of other music I like or, similar area influences and whatnot, so I probably should.
Dude, I know you don't read, but the
It's true.
the
Books are
the
boring.
Roger Mirit's autobiography, he writes a lot about, I mean, it's like him and Vinny Stigma, and he writes a lot about oh my God, what is wrong with my brain right now? Uh Michael, what is wrong with my brain? The dude from
While you
Warzone.
while you think of it, I'm just gonna jump in and say on I don't know if it's out yet. With the episode you did recently that has Agnostic Front, you want to know something? I've never really listened much to Agnostic Front either, but whatever song you play that's off a record you don't listen to, I actually didn't mind that much.
They have such like a huge discography, and it's the type of thing where the first two, if you're
Hmm.
like kind of a hardcore um elitist, those are the only ones that you're gonna really listen to. But they have a ton of records beyond that, and each one of them has some pretty interesting songs. Uh, what were we talking about? Oh, Warzone. Yeah, with
The
like,
book,
so
yes.
yeah. In the book, he talks a ton. So about Stigma, who also has a book out, which I've had a really hard time getting from the library. And my librarian has said it doesn't exist in any library in the United States.
It's just not a real thing. It's just pretend.
Um, she did get me books from other states. Like I got the Matt Pryor book, which was also pretty good. But when he's talking about rabies, um, that dude was nuts, man. Like
Hmm.
I don't understand, I grew up much differently from how those guys grew up, but it's fascinating to hear stories and be like, how did this person survive? And how are they like a seemingly like balanced person with like a family and a job, and like it was really, really a dark book at times. And yeah, I don't know. It's also fascinating that somebody who was like just on angel dust and like had no education made records that we're still listening to 40 years later and being like stoked about.
It is funny. It's crazy to think about how the, punk and hardcore scene in like New York or even Boston and like, the 80s differ, 80s and early 90s differ so much from like what we experienced going, which is funny because I was just watching like Fleshwater just put out a new song and I really like Fleshwater, but my
They're
first
cool.
thought to it was like the video production is so involved. And I'm like, it just reminds about how like the current hardcore scene, even though they're more of an adjacent, um, has so much money behind it and everything seems so produced. Everything seems like, every starting band that doesn't have even any many fans at all has a booking agent, has, all these people efforting behind them to make it all happen. So much DIY. And I only can assume that people from like, especially New York in the 80s, that when they saw like late 90s, early 2000s hardcore was probably like, this is some junk. Like these people didn't go through a struggle. Like they didn't grow up the way I grew up. This is so clean cut, so produced. And so it's got to be wild to think not only we listen to music from 40 years ago, but like it's true. How did they survive to the point that they did?
Yeah, and I mean, part of the answer was that they were earning money from those records. You know,
Hmm.
it's like I there's obviously in sort of the punk mindset the idea that like you're making punk music or hardcore music and making money on it, that that's like really a, you know, a red flag, a bad thing. Um, and then you're I'm reading this book and it's like Rogers, like that's, you know, that's how he like touring was his job, you know? And it's like
Hmm.
I guess in my mind I think about like people who maybe I know who are musicians and it's kind of their job, and you're like, oh, that's weird. Just considering like that wasn't the experience of any of our like friends. You know, we were just all were in these like bands that played in basements, and that was the world to us.
Yep.
Uh, some of those early bands were like trying to quote unquote make it in whatever capacity that looked like, so that they could like pay their rent and, you know, support
Yeah.
their drug habits or whatever. All right, we've gotten a little off topic and we're running short on time. Basically, Oi is Bizarro Youth Crew Straight Edge Youth Crew.
Yep.
Michael wants diversity in his drumming.
Hmm.
Michael wants punk and hardcore to be made by Americans for Americans. Um, my Michael needs palm muting.
Yeah, a little, at least a little bit.
And the bands that are Oi or Oi adjacent that he likes the most sound like they could maybe be on the radio,
Yeah,
and
have a little bit of
also
that
doesn't
alternative
like British
feel.
accents at all.
I mean, if you're British, have a British accent. If you're not, get out of here. Same thing with Irish. You know, if you have an Irish accent, that's fine, but don't create one.
No.
Well, that's my feelings. But
Okay.
who cares what I say? I'm
Yeah.
now at this point, I'm excited for the sad hardcore episode.
It's a few. Hold on, I'll tell you how many episodes. I'll tell you how many episodes back it is. I got pretty far ahead. I guess if anybody watches this, they're my friend and they already know that I pre-record a lot of these episodes. And this isn't really going that far behind the curtain here. But next week, just as a flash forward here. Sorry. So the Oi episode came out this week. Next
Mhm.
week is the Busted mental
Which I get a
centered
preview.
episode. And
Love
then
that.
the week after that, I guess I tentatively titled it Neurosis Plus because I started with
Mm,
Neurosis.
I get
I
that.
I'm into it, and then the next episode I have sort of pieced together, but I'm doing one that is 2025 so far,
Okay.
things that I've been into, and then to contrast with 2025, I also put an equal number of songs from bands from 1985. It's all 1985 releases and 2025 releases.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, that'll be good for me since I still download music. I have not been up to date on listening to too many new stuff because I'm ancient. So
Yeah.
we should also do this whole thing again with you should do this with the Busted episode and have O'Coin give his thoughts on the Busted episode since that's Michael music.
Yeah.
And I feel like Oi is O'Coin music.
Yeah, we could do that. We could have both of you guys on. All right, I'm gonna hit it here. Give me 1 second. And thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody who watched or listened to this. ScreamingForChangeRadio.com. Peace.